And welcome everyone. We should be live. I'm just gonna give it a minute until I can see you in the chat. Welcome everyone. If any of you are completely new to me, if you've just clicked on this live or this video by accident almost, this is an interactive live walk into Vauxhall and Vauxhall. So if it is 20th of April 87 for you, you are probably watching me live, so you should be able to interact in the chat. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me properly. And if it's no longer 20th of April, you're probably watching a replay in the next few days. Hi Trista. So we've got about 10 minutes before to start. So if any of you are watching the replay in the next few days or months, if you wanted to skip the hellos and go straight into the walking tour, feel free to skip the next 10 minutes. We've got 10 minutes to get to know each other before we officially start. Hi Shaz, nice to see you here. You can hear me well, perfect. Good. You know what, let's test the microphone. Let's get that out of the way. Most of you know the drill already. I'm gonna be tapping the microphone 3 times. Let me know if you've heard that. Hi Mary. Happy Easter. Hi Natasha. Happy Easter. Let me know if you've heard the 3 little tap. Yeah, Easter Sunday, Pisas. But what about the Mondays? Because I was born on the Monday. Thank you, Emily and Carol. Hi, Cheryl. Nice to see you here. Hi, Julie. Welcome everyone that just joined. Loud and clear, perfect. Yeah, I was born on the Easter Monday, and as a child, I probably heard the story about my birth a few times because one day at school, I was in Catholic school, Sister Yvonne asked me when my birthday was. I would have been like a toddler, you know, or like 3 years old. And apparently I was like, Easter! No, when is your birthday? I was like, Easter! No, when? What day? Easter! So then she had to tell my mum, you've got to tell her Easter is not her birthday. It doesn't matter, Pisas. Well, I think it probably happened again. Maybe not. I can't remember any occasions where I did, but I really don't really celebrate much of my birthday anyway. ICR. So we've got about 7 minutes to go. And Rose is here. Welcome, Rose. Thank you. Yes, I'm 21st today. You know what? I actually just double checked how old I was on, I just asked Google if I was born on 20th of April 87, how old am I today? Because I wasn't too sure I thought I was 38. I think I'm 38. And anyway, Google AI came up with something completely random saying because due to the date and then today it's 24th of April, no, 29th of April 2024. I was like, what? They were like, therefore, 37. I'm like, what? But, so they sometimes Google AI gets confused with random stuff. The other day I asked Google AI, oh, is it colder than yesterday? Because it's the time of the year when you don't know what to wear in the morning, and I often start very, very early. So I was just trying to figure out which jacket I wanted. And Google AI replied, yes, it is cooler than yesterday because yesterday the peak temperature was 17, today it's 19 degrees. Therefore, it is cooler than yesterday. I was like, no. I had to read it 3 times. I was like, no. So sometimes we shouldn't trust AI. It's going to rule the world, yeah. There's trying to put some dark background because there's a message like, oh, there we go. Because the chat is white, so when the background is white, I don't see everything. Hi, Abby, welcome. People that just joined might wonder, why is she in such an awkward position? It's just because I'm trying to see the chat a bit better because of the white sky. Sunny in Preston. Nice. It's not sunny here. It's not really warm either for this time of the year, but at least it's not raining, so we're lucky. Because Google was saying 20% chances of rain. And thank you, Natasha. That's very much appreciated. So we've got 4 minutes to go. I don't know why I'm holding a little stick. So 4 minutes before we officially get started. Let me gracefully stand up already. Because I was sat on, I was sat on dead people actually, because this used to be a graveyard. It's a little park now, but the bodies are still here. Thank you for being born. No worries, Natasha. It was out of my control, so I suppose my parents should be thanks. Sunny in Sheffield. Lucky you, William. Well, I don't mind it like this. As long as it's not raining, we're good. Let me give you a glimpse of the view. And 2013, don't even remember what I did for 2013, but it was on Easter again. Okay, thanks for looking it up. So 3 times. Magic wands, exactly, yes. You thanks my parents, good. My dad is actually coming next weekend. So he'll be spending a few days in London. That's why I don't have a live on the weekend, because I've got a lot of work plus a daddy at home next weekend. Thanks, Trista. Oh, happy birthday to you then, Trista. Right, let's see what time it is. 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes. If any of you were completely new to me, if you've got no idea what's happening, we're going for a live walk of Vauxhall. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. We're waiting until it's officially time to start. It might be a bit of a quiet one today, because I suppose a lot of people might be having an Easter lunch or an Easter dinner with friends or family. So some people might be watching the replay later on. Oh, sometimes your birthday is on Good Friday. Good. Well, it's not ideal. I mean, for me, it's not ideal because bank holidays, weekends, I usually work a lot anyway. I've had 3 jobs today. That's why, if any of you actually send me any happy birthdays on social media, if I've not replied yet, that's why I've been running from one job to another. So busy day. Why did Jesus decide to die on my birthday? Are you watching at church? I didn't know I'll be competing with Jesus. So we've got, oops, what did I do? That's not what I meant to do. There we go, 1 minute to go. Can you hear the bell? The bell is telling me it's time, but I think there's still 1 minute to go. Let's see. Yeah, It's a bit early. Have I had an Easter chocolate? Yeah, I had a tiny little egg this morning. One of my colleagues was giving it to her customers, so I was like, I want one too. But that's it. No more chocolates. Right, let's see if it is officially time. Yes, it is officially 5 p.m. UK time. So welcome everyone. And without further ado, let me flip this camera around and let's go for a little walk. Right, so we are now in a little playground, but this playground is actually on top of graves. This is a former graveyard. Well, actually, before to be a graveyard, it used to be an execution spot. But you might have noticed they've moved the graves, or at least the headstones, to the side, so you don't have any unstable headstones that might fall on children or whoever it might be. So now it's been transformed into a little park. They actually have a little market as well on Saturday. They have a little the Oval farmers market here on the grounds as well. And this is St. Mark's Church, 1824, I think it is. It's one of the Waterloo churches. We talked about that last week when we were in West Norwood. You know, we saw a church that looked a bit similar to this one. Apologies, my microphone is falling down, bear with me. Same generation of churches. They've been built to celebrate really the Napoleonic Wars. Now, before the church, it was an execution site. Hi Sarah, hi Trish, welcome everyone that just joined. And we've spoken about a few of the execution spots in London in some of my tours, you know, like St. Paul's or Marble Arch, or the Tower of London, of course, or Newgate. Well, this was also an execution site. The first lady to be executed here was in 1678. She was actually burned. Hi Sandrine, and welcome everyone else. She was, her name was Sarah Elston. She was burnt at stake, which is actually quite rare. Usually burning was for crimes related to heresy, so anything linked to religion and stuff like that. Sarah was actually executed because she'd killed her husband. She'd claimed she was innocent, yes, of course. She claimed that she happened to be holding a pair of scissors when her husband ran into her. She was burned as an example, and there were a lot of pamphlets written about her. And there were only, I think it was 12 ladies in total that were executed here, and 129 men. Some of those men were Jacobites, so that would have been quite horrible, because they would have been hanged, drawn and quartered. The Jacobites, for the ones that don't know, to keep the story short, they were those supporters of the Catholic line of succession. You know, after James II, the last one of the Stuart dynasty, they, the last one of the Catholics, Stuart, they kind of exiled him, and then since that day, some people were supporting the Catholics. They were the Jacobites, and some of them were executed here. Now, this little pub across the street here, the Derby, it used to be called the Greyhound, and it was also the site of a murder. Quite a sad one. That was in 1932. The pub was managed by a couple, Ernest Mays and Violet. And the pub wasn't doing very well. You know, they shouldn't be crossing, but they weren't making much money. And thanks, Rennie. And the landlord apparently was in debt. He had to pay £250. I don't know how much that'll be in today's money, but that sounds like a lot to the taxman, really. He had to pay for his license. You know, you need an alcohol license to be running a pub. And apparently one morning, the bartender entered the pub. He couldn't find the boss. He went upstairs, you know, where they had their little accommodation. And Ernest had... Ernest's body was on the staircase and his wife was on the bed. He had shot his wife and then unalive himself as well. So quite a sad story. Apparently it was not... I mean, the taxman was not pressuring them, you know. It was... so they were not to be blamed. And, you know, at the time, they would always say that they committed that act under temporary insanity because, you know, technically taking your own life was a crime as well. So quite a sad murder, this one. Anyway, let's go down towards Vauxhall Station. Straight ahead, that's Kennington. Today we call it Kennington Park. It used to be called Kennington Commons. They used to play cricket in there before to have the oval cricket ground. It is also there that Charlie Chaplin allegedly met his first girlfriend. Chaplin lived very, very locally. He lived in Kennington. Well, that's what he claimed in his biography, but I tend not to always trust what people put in their biographies because, you know, recollection may vary. As you might have seen with Prince Harry's biography, it was full of rubbish. So, you know. Anyway, we're just by Vauxhall Station, so that's on the Northern Line. It's probably the closest tube station to me. I live in Camberwell, so I'm not too far. I don't really have an underground where I live, so although I never commute through here. Because Elephant and Castle is a bit more convenient. Technically, I think it's the closest one to me. Anyway, let's take a look at this letterbox. I never knew if people are new to me or not. So when we look at the letterboxes, we look at the royal cipher. So that's GR. There's no number because that would be George V, Queen Elizabeth's granddad. He doesn't need to put a number because George IV existed before the post boxes. So this one doesn't need a number. And what's interesting is here they put a little sign saying this post box celebrates the cricket, blah blah blah. It's even written in Braille. That's sweet. But clearly the post box existed before because it's from the time of George V. So they put a sign on the letterbox that already existed. Anyway, it is to celebrate winnings at cricket because we are right by the Kia Oval cricket ground. You've got a few of those Georgian ones in Preston. Yeah, they're not too rare. I think there still are quite a few. The ones that are the rarest, it's actually Edward VIII, you know, the Queen's uncle, the one that abdicated for his American divorcee, because obviously he was on the throne only for a year, so they didn't have time to have many letterboxes. That's a new little hotel here, the Travelodge. This used to be the site of a theatre, the Oval Theatre. It was a rounded little theatre that played a lot of LGBTQ plus plays, but they've knocked it off to build a hotel. And this is the cricket ground. I don't understand anything in cricket. I have been to cricket games before because when I used to do agency work, I had a few jobs at cricket matches. Not here. I've never been inside this one. I've been to Chelmsford, you know, in Essex. But I don't understand the game. It lasts forever. It lasts for hours and hours. this building here, excuse my finger, but this one here, I nearly moved inside about 3-4 years ago when I was evicted. It used to be a guardianship. So for the ones that don't know, the guardianships, it's when you put people living in a commercial building, so maybe a school, maybe a church, maybe a hospital or a nursing home. You put people in there for a few months or a few years, whatever time it might be, to avoid actual squatters. And that's why I live in a former nursing home today. It's this type of contract that are a little bit cheaper than a normal rent, but the deal is that they can kick you out at any time. So anyway, I nearly moved into that one, but good thing I didn't, because I think they are about to knock it down anyway. It belongs to the cricket ground, the cricket ground as well. Anyway, in terms of cricket, when the English team plays against Australia, we say they play for the Ashes. Let me show you. See the little mural across the street there? You might not be able to read, so I'll show you the original. After the first international game here between the English and the Australians, there was a newspaper that published this in the remembrance of English cricket, which died at the Oval in August 1882. Deeply regretted, blah blah blah. The body will be cremated and the ashes would be taken to Australia. Since that day, when we play Australia, we play for the Ashes. Although they don't actually really give the Ashes back. The fake little thing with the Ashes stays over here, I think. But it's still, it was a little joke that really took off, and now people always play for the Ashes. You can see a bit of the ground from here. And in the middle, that's the Oval gas holder. So that was a Victorian gas holder. They managed to get it listed, so protected for its heritage, like the ones you might remember. We spoke about those gas holders in by Cold Rope Yard, behind St Pancras station. This one was listed because technically it's part of the background. When you go to the cricket, when you look at the pitch, you always see those gas holders in the background. So they managed to get it listed for its historical in heritage, really, because of its link to cricket as well, and being in the view of the cricket ground. So at the moment they're building a building inside of the gas holder, exactly like they did in King's Cross. So that's funny shaped apartments. They're probably shaped like a pizza slice, Well, I've not seen the map for those apartments, but in King's Cross, yeah, they look exactly like not like a triangle, but like a pizza, like a slice of pizza. Right, let me show you some interesting little barriers to lift up people and carry them to hospital and everything. And after all the war effort, we were a bit low in metal, in terms of raw material and in terms of everything. So they decided to upcycle them and place them there on the social housing. Let's keep the picture. Let me show you one for the child. So those ones are for adults. You can see they're quite long. They're like almost 2 meters, so you can easily lift an adult. But let me show you the little one. That would have been used for the children. So that's quite amazing to imagine that, through the blitz and all that, this very piece of metal would have been served to save kids, you know, maybe to remove them from the debris, from the bomb site and all that. So that's an interesting little piece of London history here. Anyway, let me show you another view of the Oval. So that's the other side. And we'll see a bit of the gas holder again in the distance. Happy Easter, Caroline. Happy Easter, everyone that just joined. Lovely to have you along. It's nice of you to be able to spend a bit of time with us, despite all the, I don't know, all the family events you might have. Oops, sorry. Now let me zoom in on the gas holder, you'll see. So you can see the building inside. So this is the gas holder there, and you can see the construction in the middle. So it's going to be those interesting new developments. I've got a picture actually. That's probably like AI, but see, they've generated the flats inside of... That's actually because I was looking for apartments in the next building to see if they had a view, and I found those AI generated picture of what it's gonna look like when they are done. They are not finished yet, but they should be done in a few months or a few years, who knows. Right, now let's go towards the Paradise Project, which is one of my favorite areas in London. If any of you wanted to send me a couple of millions for my birthday, I would probably buy an apartment there. Maybe not 2 millions, maybe 1.5. Oh, let's not be too greedy. It's Vauxhall is great because you're just like a mile really from Westminster. So although it's south of the river, so it might not feel that central, but it's actually very central. You're literally just opposite of Pimlico and all that. Actually, we'll talk about that as we get a bit closer, but straight ahead there, that's the famous MI6 building, the one you might have seen in many James Bond movies. So that stands for Military Intelligence Number 6. The MI6, it's the international spies. When MI5, that's in the other side of the river in Pimlico, that is the domestic spies, not flies. So you've got many MI. MI9 was the spies through the Second World War, Churchill spies. So you got many MI, but the most famous is of course the MI6 because of James Bond. Although it is a secret organization, it's one of the most famous organizations nowadays because of, or thanks to Ian Fleming. Right, let me go to it. I'll show you where we are. A little garden called Harleyford Road Gardens. It's a bit not secret, but a lot of people don't know that you are allowed to go because you've got to push the railings open. Exactly, 007. 007 apparently was inspired by the 007 bus, National Express, that used to go down to Dover. Apparently, that's what they say, that inspired Ian Fleming. So this is a lovely little community garden, and it feels very private, although everyone is allowed to come. A lot of people don't really know that you can come here. And I'm gonna have to go through a building to go and to show you another garden that is even nicer. Now let me show you the name. I'm taking you to Bonington Square. I'll show you the name over here. Hello, Anna. Bonington Square. So it's an amazing little neighbourhood. What happened here is that most of those buildings are actually Victorian. They would have been built at the beginning of the 1880s. Well, most of them in 1881 to be precise. That was mainly to accommodate the railway workers that worked on the new Vauxhall train station. And through the Second World War, they were bombed quite a lot. The little garden where we're heading to now actually was a bomb site. 7 homes were completely destroyed. And many other homes next to it were partially destroyed. And eventually, early 70, well, I think in 1970, the London County Council decided to buy all the area, to buy about 90 homes around here. So that was compulsory. People did not have the option. They had to sell their homes to the council, because the council wanted to destroy everything to build a very large school. So a lot of people had to sell their homes, and a lot of homes were found empty for a few months. And then squatters moved in. And it became an amazing community with a lot of squatters living here together. Some of those buildings, as we mentioned, were partially destroyed. So some people didn't have water. That's okay, they'll go and shower at the neighbors. Some people didn't have electricity. That's okay, they'll go and watch television at the neighbors. One of the buildings didn't even have a roof. That's okay, they made it a nightclub. So they had one particular building where they'll go and party. And so this amazing little community was created. And in, I think in 81, Labour came to power. And suddenly evicting those people was no longer a priority. And they stayed. So this is the little Bonington Square. It's, sorry, I'm just going to pop the camera inside because the gate is shut at this time. A lovely little garden. And so yeah, eventually in the 80s, evicting them was no longer a priority. So they stayed. Some of them even managed to get some government grant to make their homes look a bit better. And eventually they managed to get the right to buy them from the council. So nowadays they are private. This big wheel here, this weird thing, that's from a marble cutting factory. They kept it as a deco. It is said that once a year the wheel spins and every little bucket is filled with a bottle of champagne. Not sure that's true, but that's a nice little urban myth. And so out of the original squatters, I think it's about 15, 20 that are still here, but some of them are their descendants. And it's still a lovely little community where people help one another. See, for example, this is a little, this here, that's a little bicycle pump. So if you want to do your tires. They also have little workshops, you know, like if you have a problem with your computer, every so often, maybe once a month, they have an IT workshop or a repair or everything. They also have yoga and a lot of amazing little community events happening in the little square here. So Bonington Square, all this little green, that's part of the bomb site. And today, those homes, they cost about 1.5 million. So, and it must have been an amazing place to live, because, you know, in life, you can choose many things. Even if you have a lot of money, you can choose many things, but you cannot choose your neighbors. They could, you know, so that's quite cool. The little cafe here, the Bonington Cafe, when the squatters settled, what they used to do is they'd go to the market. You know, we've got the Covent Garden Market in Vauxhall. When the Covent Garden Market, the fruit market, moved out of Covent Garden, they moved into Vauxhall. So every day you had a lot of fruit and vegetables that were wasted. Oh, look at this. This is a Georgian boot scraper. I don't know how it could be Georgian. It's probably Victorian, actually, because those buildings are Victorian, so you can come on and scratch your shoes if you have dirty shoes coming down from your horse. So yeah, anyway, they'll go on dumpster dive at the fruit market, and then every night they'll cook it. So at the little cafe here, they'll have originally it was only vegetable or veggie stuff. At first it was free, and then they started to charge like a pound or something. But yeah, they'll feed themselves out of food waste. So that was quite cool. And at the time, not all of them had the possibility to cook anyway, because some people didn't even have electricity, or a cooker or anything. So that was great to have a communal place to be able to enjoy food together. So lovely and very unique neighbourhood, really. Did not choose your sub-neighbourhood. Yeah, I think it's something, in London. I mean, because, we all, I don't think I know any of my neighbours, like, out of my building. Well, actually, that's not true. We know one of them because through the COVID lockdown, they posted our photos on Twitter because we were having parties, but we lived together. We were one household. And because of an argument on Twitter, we actually got to know one of our neighbours. But apart from that, London can be quite cold, You don't really go and knock at your neighbours to ask for a bit of salt or an egg or whatever, as you might do sometimes in the countryside. Anyway, let me take you to the Vauxhall Pleasure Gardens. They used to be called the Spring Gardens, and they've just, a few years ago now, they swapped the name back to the Pleasure Gardens, because that's where they used to be called. Now, when the Pleasure Gardens were created, that was in the 1660s, at the time, the Westminster Bridge was not even there yet, so we were south of the river. So if you wanted to come to the Pleasure Gardens, that's a lot of lime bikes. If you wanted to come to the Pleasure Gardens, you'd have to jump on a boat. So that probably was already part of the party. You'd probably have a few drinks before to jump on a boat. Then you'd come down here. The gardens were created by a guy called Jonathan Tyers. He was from Bermondsey, and at the time, so in the mainly in the 18th century and late 17th century, they were actually running for 150 years. It was the place to be. You'd bring you'd bring your wife for a night out, or sometimes you didn't bring your wife because it was also full of prostitution. It wasn't cheap. You'd have to pay a shilling to get into the gardens, because they wanted to avoid all those poor people coming in and all this prostitution and everything. And you'd have musicians, you'd have performance, you'd have a lot of food, quite expensive food, a bit like if you were going to a Christmas market today, or any parks. Let me cross. I probably shouldn't, but let's go halfway. See, they've added those two little characters at the top. The lady on the left, she's dressed with almost like a crinoline dress and stuff. She looks very much 18th century, and that's a modern boy on the other side, to show what Vauxhall used to be and what Vauxhall is now. Oh, you have a new fox neighbour. Oh, that's cool. I love my foxy friends. Your neighbour is a celebrity, Pisas. Would I know them? I don't think I have any celebrity neighbours, but who knows? So yeah, so the gardens, yeah, that was the place to be. Not only was it the place to come, but it was also the place to be seen. If you were an artist like Handel, you want to come and perform here. This is the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, the bar, the pub. I'll tell you a bit more about the tavern in a moment, but just to show you the front. So musicians used to come. Samuel Pepys used to come as well, and eventually they brought it up to 2 shillings because there were a lot of debauchery as well and sex workers, and so it was a night out, a night of performance, a night of drink, a night of everything really. And those pleasure gardens actually inspired some more. So they had some in Paris as well, and some in Nashville as well, in Tennessee, and some in Russia as well. And it's also from here, from the pleasure gardens, that they had, I think it was in the 1830s, a guy called Charles Green that was he beat the record of the longest journey done on a air balloon. You know, after the Montgolfier brothers invented the air balloons in France, the record was from here. So he flew from here in Vauxhall all the way down to Germany, I think. And the record was not beaten again until an aircraft, like a century later. Now, we're not going to go all the way because they'll be closed at this time, but if I went straight ahead this way, you'll find Vauxhall City Farm. That's a little farm where you can find alpacas and stuff. They usually close about 3:30 or 4, so they'll be closed, but that's amazing to be able to find some farm animals in the center of Vauxhall. And this is the MI6 building again, the one you might have seen exploding in Skyfall. Now, let me take you to the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. It is a bit of an icon of, it's actually a listed building because of its linked to LGBTQ plus history. It is a gay bar. It dates back to the 1860s, but it really started being more or less officially gay, or at least known as gay after the Second World War, when they started to have some drag artist shows and all that. And it's a very cool venue because it's not only for men. You have some lesbian nights as well, and a lot of performances. You know, even poetry nights or drag act, or a lot of, they have an amazing stage in the middle. I spent a few, especially Sundays, I spent a few Sunday afternoons at the RVT myself. Vauxhall used to be a party place. Vauxhall has been a bit sanitized really in the last 10 years when they built all those towers. But it used to be a place where you could party from a Thursday night all the way until a Tuesday morning. You'd go from one party to the after party to another party, and the RVT was mainly on Sunday afternoon when people would. It was every night, but Sunday afternoon and evening was big because people would come out of Fire nightclub and end up at the RVT. Now. There's a lady that some of you might have heard of that allegedly came to the RVT in 1988. It is Lady Diana, Princess of Wales. Now, take that story with a pinch of salt, because it comes from one book that was published in I think 2013 by Cleo Rocos. Now, let's make a move because I don't want to be filming people right into their faces. But those of you that were alive in the 80s, you might remember Cleo Rocos and Kenny Everett. They were TV presenters on British television. And Cleo published a book that is, what is it called? I think it's called The Power of Positive Drinking, where she claimed that one night in 1988, They were at home at Kenny's flat. Kenny was also friend with Freddie Mercury and Lady Diana. And apparently that night they were in the flat and they were watching Golden Girls. Some of you might remember the show Golden Girls. I don't, that's not really my generation. Well, I said they were watching, they were not actually watching the show. What they were doing is one of my favorite games. They'll take a soap opera or any TV show, you turn the sound off, so you've got the TV on, but the sound off, and then you can improvise their dialogues. So it's an improvisation game, but it can be very funny. I used to love to play that when I was a teenager. Well, I still do, really. So that's what they were playing. So imagine the scene: Freddie Mercury, Kenny Everett, Cleo Rocos, and Lady Diana. And apparently, at some point, Freddie Mercury said, "Oh, I want to go to the RVT, the Royal Vauxhall Tavern." And apparently, Kenny was like, "No, we cannot go with Diana." And Diana was like, "Oh, let the girl have some fun." So apparently, again, according to Cleo, they dressed up Diana in male outfit, a camouflage top and some black sunglasses. Apparently, she looked a bit like a male model. And she came for a drink. Nobody recognized her. Again, there's only one person to back up that event. It's Cleo, but I don't see why Cleo Rocos would be lying. Well, apart from selling some books, maybe. So great stories, great story. I don't think she stayed for very, very long, but she did come for a drink with Freddie Mercury. So this is Vauxhall Station. The large structure in the middle, that's the bus station. So it's very much of a big bus interchange really, with quite a few bus lines going through Vauxhall. And let me cross. Yep, there we go. So this is the MI6 building again. The Spies. So the secret services, as we know them today, I think it's fair to say that they were created in 1909 by a chap called Mansfield Cunning. We always had spies. You can go back to the time of Queen Elizabeth I and Shakespeare's. She had spies already. But as the secret service is being organized as they are today, that was before the beginning of the First World War, when they started to be a bit wary of the Germans. And Mansfield, he used to sign his letter by M, like C in James Bond. And he was an interesting character. He had a wooden leg. You wouldn't know, of course, when he was wearing a pair of trousers. And he used to have interviews, to find new secret agents. He would interview them at the Horse Guards Hotel on next to Whitehall. And apparently, he'd be doing the interview, and in the middle of the interview, he'd grab a knife and he'd stab his leg. Obviously, that was in his wooden leg, but you wouldn't know. And if the interviewee didn't react too much, then he was gonna be a good recruit. He was gonna be a good spy. And I don't know much about spies, but that's the point, isn't it? All I know is that, they're actually more today than they ever were, because today you have all the digital spies. You have all those code breakers and code makers, and all this digital world that I don't understand much about. And thanks ever so much, Linda. Anyway, let's go and cross the Vauxhall Bridge. The Vauxhall Bridge, I think this one is 1906, but there was one before. The one before actually was the first bridge in London to have some trams on the bridge. Because we used to have a huge network of trams in London, would you believe? We don't anymore, but they were gone in the 50s. But before that, you had a tram network. And this bridge was also the first street with, I think, Park Lane to have a bus lane. So that's a little fun fact. Now let's go on this side of the bridge, so this will show you both sides, and I can show you Battersea Power Station. Now the complex, those buildings next to me, they are, well, some people might say ugly. See, you get all those new skyscrapers here. And the little pier there, that's to take the Uber boats. You know, it's almost like a bus on the river. You can jump on the Uber boat like you would with the underground. And straight in the middle, you see the 4 pillars. That's the chimneys of Battersea Power Station. Now those skyscrapers, they're not too old. They probably are about, I want to say 7 years old now. Could be wrong, it could be a bit more. They were heavily criticized when they were first built. They were, oh, there comes one of the Uber boats. Yeah, they were criticized by social commentators. I don't know why. I've never actually used the term social commentators before. I don't even know what they are. I mean, I make comments on society. Am I a social commentator? But anyway, they were heavily criticized. So yeah, those Uber boats, you can, if you come to London, you can take them with your credit card. So you don't have to buy a ticket or book ahead or anything. You can just turn up at the pier like you turn up at the bus stop, wait for the Uber boat, tap your credit card on the way in and out. You always have to make sure you tap on the way out, otherwise they'll charge you maximum fare. Now at the foot of the bridge here, you've got the Effra River that comes in. I think it's just there. You know, we talked about, when did we talk about the Effra? Oh, last week. You know, when we were in West Norwood Cemetery, I told you that there was a coffin that was floating down the lost Effra River. So the Effra River was one of those rivers that were covered up in Victorian times for the sewage system. But you know, they're still running underground. And here, excuse my finger, but I think that's the Tavern coming out here. The Tavern is also a lost river, but they still exist, and they're still running underground. The Tavern was finishing in a delta, so one part would finish here, and the other part was on the other side of Westminster Abbey. And Vauxhall Bridge, well, our bridge, the Victorian one, the one before this one, might not actually have been the first bridge on this site. They found some wooden remains of a bridge that would have been built here even before Roman times. We don't know whether it was a full bridge. It might have just been some kind of a pier to go and give some offerings to the river, because they found in the river a lot of remains that might have been offerings. You know, at the time when we had many gods and goddesses, some people might have been giving stuff to the river, or to old Father Thames. It's a god figure as well. Anyway, as we cross the river, we'll end up in Pimlico. Now, we were talking about Spies earlier. Well, the Spies are very, very much still active today, and the spy game with Russia is very much still on. Some of you might remember, not that long ago, the Salisbury poisoning. Horrible case of poisoning in Salisbury. And there was also another spy here that might or might not have been eliminated by the Russians or by his own people. We don't know. That was in 2010, one young secret agent, we know that for sure. He was a mathematician. He was amazing in computer science. So he worked for MI6. Of course, we don't have great details of what he was working on, but some say that he was indeed working on breaking some codes for international organized crime, and some of it may have been Russian, according to some. Anyway, one day, his colleagues and his loved ones were a bit worried. So one day, PC Gallagher was sent into a flat in Pimlico, so just somewhere on this side, straight ahead. It was in August, so, summer day, quite warm. And PC Gallagher entered the flat. He had to go to the agency to get a key. He entered the flat. The first thing he noticed that it was very, very warm in the flat. The heating was on. It was a bit weird to have the heating on in August, because you don't need it. And he looked around the flat. Nothing was out of the ordinary, really. When eventually he went upstairs, he found the bathrooms. The bathroom, there was only one. And when he got into the bathroom, he had a view on a big red bag in the bathtub, a North Face red bag that was zipped and locked with a little lock. And as he tried to lift up the bag, the smell that came out was unmistakable. That was the smell of human decomposition. Before to do anything, then he of course called his superiors, and because the guy was an agent, what happened is the secret services were allowed to enter before the police could actually do a full search. What did they do? We don't know. Did they go and eliminate some evidence? Did they go and plant some evidence? We just don't know. And then eventually the police was able to come in. So the body of the poor young spy, his name was Gareth William, was in the bag. He was quite badly decomposed, probably because of the heat in the flat. So someone might have turned the heating on to help the decomposition, or maybe to eliminate some poisons, or let me cross where it's green, I'm gonna run. And Gareth's family had no idea what might have happened to him, but they suspected, of course, that it might have been a cover-up from the social services, not the social services, the secret services. The social services wouldn't cover up something like this, I don't think. The police officers, they were actually struggling because of the fact that he was an agent. They were not actually allowed to interview his colleagues. They were able to send another police force to see the other agents, but they couldn't have a straight interview. They couldn't take any notes on everything. And of course their boss was there. So if you have an interview with your boss, it's a different, you might not say everything. Apparently Gareth, he was a young man from Wales. He was said to be single. His family didn't know anything about his love life. And what really surprised the police is that, not only was he locked in the bag, but the keys were inside of the bag. Now, some people wondered if maybe he had got into the bag himself. As he was a spy, he might have tried to work on an escape, if he was fairly flexible. Maybe he was planning on hiding in a bag at some point, but why would you close the lock? And anyway, we just don't know. He would have suffocated very, very quickly as well in a bag like this, so why would he close the lock? And also, there was an expert that tried 300 times to do the same, to lock themselves into a bag and lock the lock from the inside. At first he couldn't manage, and then eventually they decided it was maybe possible by moving the canvas of the bag from the inside, but very difficult anyway. So it does look like there was a third person involved. The police was able to find a few little bits of human hair in Gareth's hand with a foreign DNA, but that's all they had. there were some eyewitnesses that had seen two so-called Mediterranean type couple coming into the building at some point the week prior, a couple they didn't know, but that was it really. And it was never solved. So there are a few possibilities. There are some claims that Gareth might have been gay. There was a sighting of him in a gay bar watching a performance, a drag show a few weeks earlier. And also the police found a lot of ladies wear, ladies outfit, very expensive stuff. Thousands of pounds of ladies coats and dresses and jumpers and shoes in his flat when he wasn't said to have a girlfriend. His sisters were like, oh, that might have been gifts for us, you know. Oh, is it baffling? I'm gonna try not to say anything too interesting until you tell me that we are back. Is the sun cutting off for everyone? Let me know in the chat when you can hear me properly. I'm gonna try to pause the story until you tell me that you can indeed hear me properly. Are you still here with me? Let me know in the chat. I'm just gonna put the microphone up just to... Uh-oh, I hope I didn't lose you. So yeah, they good. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. And so yeah, they found the body in the bag, you know. So you'd think there was a third person involved, but some say that he might also have been practicing bondage. They did go into his search history, and apparently he had been looking up at bondage website. But was it part of the evidence that was planted? You know, who knows? Were the secret services or whoever else trying to create a narrative that he might have been into bondage, or that he might have done this type of stuff, like locking himself in a bag as a game, alone or with someone else? Did that person maybe run away? They never actually found out. Oh, thanks everyone. They never actually found anything. A few years later, I think it would have been in 2015, there was a Russian spy that claims that the what is it called? The you know, the KGB is no longer the KGB today. What do you call the KGB today? Oh, anyway, there's another name. I don't know what it's called. I don't know, whatever. So the former KGB, the new Russian secret services, he claimed that they had tried to approach Gareth to get him to be a double agent, and he had refused. So that could be why the KGB would have eliminated him. But there were apparently no evidence of that. And eventually the police concluded that it might have indeed been an accident. Maybe a game he was playing, or maybe him alone, you know, practicing for a future escape. I find it hard to believe because of the very high temperature in his flat. You'd think it does look, and there were so very little fingerprints and DNA everywhere that it does look like it would have been a bit cleaned up by someone that knew exactly what they were doing. Oh, I must have read buffering instead of baffling or something. That's why sometimes when the background is white, I must have read buffering. Just gonna wait because there's a. Right, we are now in front of the Tate Britain. Not to be confused with the Tate Modern on the South Bank. So this is a free museum of modern art. We call it the Tate Britain, but actually when it was first created, it was known as the National Collection of British Art. And Henry Tate, you know who that is because we talked about him last week in West Norwood Cemetery. Henry Tate was a grocer from Liverpool. He made a fortune by commercializing the sugar cubes. You know, before that, sugar was in bags or in sugar loaves. You know, they had some kind of those loaves of sugar. And those cubes were so very convenient that he made a fortune and he bought a lot of art. And as his health deteriorated, you know, he lived until the age of 90 years old. He decided to donate his collection to the nation. But government kind of snubbed him. They were like, oh, thank you, that's very nice of you to give us your art. But we need a building to expose it as well. So he gave them £80,000. That was a huge amount of money at the time. And government said, oh, thank you, but we need the land as well. And then eventually Tate was like, no, that's enough. So government was actually going to say no. But Tate actually published it, the fact that government said no. And then they were kind of trapped, so they had to say yes eventually. So they used the site of a former prison. So this used to be the site of the Millbank prison. That was a very large building. Let me show you Millbank. So it was with all those little wings. It was a bit of a maze, apparently. The first prisoners to be at Millbank were actually ladies, and then the men came. It was mainly a place where people would wait for deportation to Australia. And, you know, when they would leave the prison, so all this area was marshland. That's why, even when they came with Tate's paintings, they were not too sure about the humidity being so close to the river. And they had those tunnels. So once you were ready to get on a boat to be deported towards Australia, you'd have to go under the tunnels, to go down, to get on your boat. It is allegedly the origin of the phrase down under, you know, when we talk about Australia. So after the prison had already closed at the time of Tate, and that's when they've decided to have this beautiful gallery. Today you have a Tate here, you have a Tate in Liverpool, and of course you've got the one on the South Bank that is in a former petrol station. What am I saying today? Power station, social services, petrol station, anything starting with the right letter. I'm a bit tired. I've done too many jobs today. So this is the building. There's hardly anything left of the original Millbank prison. The rest of it was rebuilt. Anyway, that's gonna be the end of the tour. Let me know if you have any questions before we go. If you want to see a bit more of me is it Thursday? I think it's Thursday, yeah. In a few days I've got an Ask Me Anything session. So I'll be going potentially to the park if we have a nice sunset, and I'll be answering all your questions. I've not done an Ask Me Anything since well, a year ago, I think it would have been last March. So yeah, do pop your questions on Facebook, or you can also pop your question as a comment under this video as well. If you don't know where to ask them, I'll be collecting them, and then I'll be answering everything nothing's off limit. Just ask away, whatever it might be. And let me know in the chat if you have any questions about today. Thanks Trista, thanks Caroline, thanks Ronnie, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks Emma. Yeah, I'm gonna put my feet up. Yeah, I don't have any more jobs today. Busy there again tomorrow though, bank holidays, so that's the nature of the job really. Oh, thank you Natasha. Thanks Laurie, thanks everyone for the birthday wishes. It's very much appreciated. Thanks Sarah. Cool. I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna get going. So in a few days, the Ask Me Anything. Next Monday, we're heading back to Lincolnshire, Skegness. The Monday after that, we're going to Bristol. So save the date. I've never taken you to Bristol before. And the week after that, Windsor. So we've got quite a few dates scheduled already. So make sure you hit the little notification bell if you wanna make sure you don't miss them. And thanks everyone for coming today. Have a great Easter, whatever you're doing. If you're celebrating with family or if you're stuffing yourself on chocolate or anything, enjoy. And I'll see you in a few days. And make sure you pop any questions you might have into either the comment section here or into on my Facebook group. I've done a post about it. So because we need a few more questions. First view of Vauxhall, nice. When I get drunk tonight, well, I'm not. I have to wake up in the morning. I'll go for a couple of drinks tomorrow night, but tonight I'll be a good girl. I have a bit of a cold anyway, so I don't wanna get too drunk today. Anyway, thank you for coming, guys. Have a great morning, evening, afternoon, lunch, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye bye.